Welcome back to our final lesson on Art and Design AS level. We here at NAMCOL thoroughly enjoyed this journey with you up to now and to share with you the different disciplines found on the syllabus of NSSC AS Art and Design. I'm Nina, you know me by now from NIET, but before we take a look into today's lesson, I would like to recap a bit on our previous lessons. In the first lesson, we looked into Discipline 1, which is painting and related media. We visited an art studio where Ms. Hester showed you how to turn your ideas into amazing works of art. In Discipline 2, we took a look into printmaking, where we were taught about the different types of prints and how to use them. In our third video lesson, we investigated the idea of three-dimensional studies and had a very interesting interview with Stuart, who showed us how to do constructions. Our previous lesson mainly focused on photography and graphic design, where Mel kept us intrigued with the different cameras, lenses and software programs available. Which brings us to today's lesson. We will take a look into fashion illustration. Remember, you don't need to make a dress, you just need to design something beautiful for this lesson. In Namibia, we are also very blessed with a culture of weave making, and it's a fashion illustration. We can make carpets with it, wall hangings, placemats, and we can make beautiful throws from grass or karakul. For NSSCAS, one really needs to research, experiment with, and develop ideas into creating interesting fabrics and weave textiles which will convey a specific message to the viewer. So, our learning objectives for Discipline 6 are to understand how illustration communicates the design of garments or outfits, and to understand how to produce expressive, decorative or functional responses through surface design and patterns on fabric or weaving textile articles. To help us with this journey, we would love to welcome back Ms. Hester van Schouwenberg from the Kids Center. Since our topic today is all about fashion and what inspires people to design beautiful things, it all starts on paper. So I invited Ms. Hester van Schouwenberg back to our studio to tell us a little bit more about how things come from being on paper into real life. Welcome, Hester.
Thank you very much, Nina. It's a pleasure. Fashion is a very interesting area because, you know, it's quite abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Cambridge system, they always want you to start with first-hand observation. So it makes it a bit difficult, the fashion.
Yes.
But this learner of mine, she managed to every time start something with direct observation as inspiration.
And everything is in this.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So even though she couldn't be here, we can see that
yes, on her behalf.
Yes.
Okay, so we start off with the index page. The index page explains very nicely the different pages in the coursework folder. So it also helps the examiner to refer to if he needs to.
Yeah.
Or she.
Does it have a topic, the
yes,
fashion design?
Her topic for her fashion portfolio is colourful objects.
Colourful objects.
Yes.
I'm sure this is going to be colourful.
Very much, very much. So the first page, as always with the coursework folder, you start off with an inspirational artist. Mm-hmm. Now here we see images from the inspirational artist which she got from the internet, and she pasted it here. And then she also replicated the inspirational artist by copying one of his design. Why that is important is by copying an inspirational artist, you learn something from that artist. That's the reason why they want a copy from the artist.
And this fashion designer is actually very well known. He's even designed clothes for Lady Gaga and Naomi Campbell.
Yes, yes, yes. I've noticed. Okay, so let's go to the next page. So this next page, very nicely, and the girls and the guys who do fashion design, they like to add little inspirational pieces to their
I
papers.
like these little
Yes.
beads and buttons.
Yes, very nice. So this you can see was inspired by fruits. So she got photos of fruits. She also did her own observation of a lemon slice and of lemons. Very important that you do your first-hand observation, even though you're doing fashion design. And then she started developing ideas. As you can see how she used maybe apples and other fruit,
Yes,
grapes, like
Grapes and some lemons or
Yes,
oranges there, sorry, some
oranges, and there's a strawberry,
yeah.
and she incorporated these into her designs.
Mm.
But now what's important is you can't wear a slice of lemon, no?
Mm-hmm.
So you have
You're
to
not Lady Gaga that can wear
exactly,
mute.
exactly. So you have to think a bit more abstract. So you take the lemon as inspiration, and then you change it into a design, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
no longer a lemon. You
Yes.
see?
Okay, and even the
Yeah.
shoe there, that looks
Exactly.
interesting. It's inspired by apple colors, I see.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to make something look more abstract. You can't just paste the lemon here on your dress and say,
Yeah,
I've designed
okay,
a
yeah.
dress.
Like they do with the masks that's now left over from COVID.
Yes, interesting. Now this page is inspired by umbrellas. You can see she also studied umbrellas, some closed umbrellas, some open umbrellas, and then she applied it to the various designs as you can see on this page.
And I see, yes, my favorite Ferrero Rocher chocolate.
Mm,
Design into a dress.
yes. Okay, and then we
I
turn
can't wait to
around.
see the next. Wow, look
You
at the
see
feathers.
So this are designs inspired by feathers, and she used the feathers at that dress at the top for the bottom part, making a scarf out of feathers, even using feathers on the shoes. And then of course also what they love is also to design not only the dress but also accessories. So you need to show a scarf, a hat, kind of shoes, that's all the accessories.
Yes, and there it looks like an ice cream cone that's upside down.
Exactly. So you have a lot of artistic freedom when you do fashion design.
Yes.
Then this page is inspired by fish scales and fins. So she studied some very fancy fishes. These fishes with a very big tails. I think they call them fan tails or something like that. Fan tail fish. And some tropical fish with interesting colors, and she also applied that to her designs.
Yes, look here at the fin, you know.
Yes,
It nearly looks a little bit like a leaf, but knowing that it's
exactly,
fish.
exactly.
And this beautiful one is also, you can actually
Yeah.
see those butterfly fish, the shape of the fins
Exactly.
of the butterfly fish.
Exactly, and again also some accessories like a little handbag. All right, and then this was a semi-final for inspired by the fishes. So here again she applied it, the fantail or the fish, and showing how you can design a dress from fish tails.
Yes, and look at the back. You can see there's also like a fin,
Yes.
a little tail
Yes,
fin.
and I'm glad you're mentioning the back, Nina, because sometimes fashion designers forget to show what the dress looks like from the back.
Yes.
So it's very important that you incorporate both the front and the back view.
You know what? I would love a dress like this.
Me?
Especially since I'm a water person that loves swimming.
Really? Okay, then here also we see the topic here was fashion inspired by different kinds of sweets and their wrappings. So she observed some Ferrero Rocher chocolates and these like sugar lollies.
Ah, lollipops, yes.
Yes, and sour worms.
Oh, yes. And Fructose. And, oh, look at this one.
Yes,
It
it's
makes me
candy.
hungry.
Candy cane.
And some
Candy
speckled
cane.
eggs.
Exactly.
And they are laid by rainbow birds.
So this is her research. Very important that you research your topic.
Yes.
And then here she started applying the different kinds of sweets to her designs. Especially here, I think it's very clear. Those all sorts
Oh, yes, the licorice all
sweets,
sorts,
yes, and this candy
Yeah, quills or twirls.
candy quills or twirls,
Yes,
which I think is very creative and innovative.
yes. And tell me, this should always be done on A2 paper,
Yes,
and
yes.
you can use both sides.
You use both sides
Not-
because
not less than 4.
you don't waste any space if you
Yes,
use both sides
yeah.
of the paper.
Mm.
And yeah, you know, sometimes they think they make a little drawing and they think, oh, it's rubbish, and they throw it away. They should never throw the little sketches away, because you never know where they can paste it onto
Yes.
their A2
exactly,
paper as a design.
I love the shoes in these sketches.
Isn't it
So, so
amazing?
important to
Look
actually,
there.
yes, look at there, the
Yeah.
candy.
The candy in the shoes.
Shoes and
there,
everything, yeah,
and I think
colours.
there's also very interesting shoes.
Oh yes, that looks again like the fish tails and the feathers
Yeah,
and the ribbons.
yes, and different kinds of licorice as you wrote there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can look at this one is inspired by African textiles and patterns. So she went to the shop and she took some samples of African inspired prints, and she applied that also to her fashion. And this technique is very interesting, where she literally cut out the fabric and she pasted it on her little fashion model.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow.
This was another development of this idea of the African fabrics.
Look
And
at
then
the earrings before you continue.
yes, that was actually that was my earring.
Oh, all right. That
Yes,
you-
which she wanted to observe in class.
Yeah. And then I see that she said the colors of the sun inspired her.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's so important that you show all your inspirational influences, little bits and pieces, put it together, because that way the examiner can get an idea of how you were thinking, you know.
Yes, so now you came to the final product.
Yes, so this is also inspired by the African textiles. And this one was her final piece, which she made also the dress of pasting little pieces of fabric, actual
Yes.
pieces of fabric.
Yeah. So
Onto
here you
the-
can, you can see that butterfly fish
Yes,
in the material.
very nice. And then lastly, but not the least, I've got a sketch here. Also, when you do fashion design, I know many people doing fashion design don't want to draw. They said, ma'am, but I can't draw. But it's very important that you learn to draw the drapes, how fabric folds. So I included this drawing just to show to these viewers that fashion design is not just about putting together ideas. You also have to have the ability to show how fabric folds, and this is a
Yes.
very good example of
Yeah.
such a drawing.
So it's important in fashion design, you don't need to make the clothing.
No.
It's just to design it.
Yes, it's
Yes.
just the design. I always tell them that their design should be so good that you can take it to a seamstress and tell the seamstress to make it.
Yes.
And it's just like an architect design a building. The architect would draw a building plan and then take that to the building contractor, and then the building contractor will build it according to the plan. So
Yes.
this is basically
Yeah.
the same with fashion design.
Sure. Well, and that's fashion design. We are also going to take a look at textile.
Yes,
Yes.
some textile techniques.
Yes.
But we can do that maybe in a few minutes.
Yes. Some textile prints and textile paints. Could you tell us the difference between the two?
Yes. Thank you, Nina. Here we have it's called the flower resist technique. So what we do is we take, like I brought this bottle along to show you, you know, the tomato sauce bottle, and we fill it up with a mixture of water and flour, and then we draw on top of the fabric, we draw our design with a flower. That's not before there is any color, just all these white lines that you see here, those were the lines where the flower were.
Yes.
So when you take it outside and you let it dry in the sun, when the flower has dried, then you can start with the fun part where you paint with a fabric paint. And so you take your brush and you just fill in the areas between the flower lines, you fill in with different colors, as you of course planned it. And then again you wait for the paint to dry, and once the paint has dried you can start peeling off.
The flower.
Yeah, if you feel, you can still feel there's some flower bits.
Leaving the original color, which was white.
Yes, so the flower resists the paint, therefore the paint doesn't go where the flower is. It's resisting. And then this technique is also
interesting.
A flower resist technique. Yes, very nice. So you see these nice fine cracks in here. So these fine cracks are created by millipap. Can you believe it?
Oh, okay, like maize meal.
Yes, maize meal. So you take the maize meal, you cover, first you put a stencil on the fabric. This is now an old X-ray. Old X-rays are very nice for stencils. So you cut out your stencil, and then you put your maize meal on top of the fabric. So everywhere where the stencil is, of course, there's no maize meal there.
Yes.
So once you've covered it with the maize meal, you also give it time to dry, and then you crack it. You like stretch it different directions, and then that's how these little cracks form.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and you can also use a fork, and you can scratch into the wet maize meal. And then once it dried, you then take your paint and you paint into all these parts that were not covered by the maize meal.
And this will eventually give you such a lovely cloth.
Exactly, and this texture is beautiful. This nice fine cracks that you get between the maize meal.
And around my neck I have this beautiful scarf, which I thought was silk, but I was told silk is very difficult to get. So this is made from satin.
Yes, and for this we also use a liner with the flower, and we did all the white lines first with a starch resist, and then after that we painted in the different colors, and when it dried we simply removed the starch. Yes,
beautiful. And now this is a print.
Yes, this is what we do, is block printing. Now here I've got a book. So you see also they start off with their direct observations. So they drew a flower with pencil, and then from there they change it into a design, like here.
All right.
This was a design.
With
and
a rope.
The rope. So it's an old piece of hardboard, and this rope is glued onto the wood, and then this is the result. These are the prints made from this block with a string on.
Oh wow! So it was similar to our lesson on printmaking.
Yes, yes, yes. But this is now this we call an overall pattern. So it's an overall pattern which you can cut out, make curtains or whatever you want to do.
Sure, this is so interesting. Thank you so much, Esther, for all your patience and for helping us so beautifully with all our lessons. I really, really appreciate it.
It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you, Mina.
And with that, I would also like to thank your learners, Lehandri and Jamila, for opening their minds to us and showing us how they came about their ideas, how they developed it to have a final product for their coursework. It was really, really beautifully put together, and they were such an inspiration to me. I also want to thank a few other people, namely Stuart Nyazema for lesson 3 on 3D studies. We made that beautiful flower pot. Also Ms. Marilyn Botha, our lovely photographer and graphic designer. I also want to thank Ms. Lynette Smith and Ms. Karen Kutsia. They were the content editors for all of these video lessons. Ms. Marianina van Deventer, who actually wrote these lessons, and it was a scripts that we used. And then I also would like to thank Eddie and Jacob. They were our handsome young videographers and sound engineers. Ms. Tange Shiafeni, she put everything together and she drew all the chords together to get everybody into the studio at NAMCO and elsewhere to make these video lessons. Last but not least, I would really like to thank NAMCO and the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture for opening this world of art and design to all our learners and everybody else interested. Then, with a farewell from Mr. Theo Cookson and the Moscato Choir, I would like to say goodbye.